Was the U.S. intel wrong?
The intel we got and we shared with the United States was absolutely clear. Was absolutely clear that they were working in a secret plan to weaponize the uranium. They were marching very quickly. They would achieve a test device and possibly an initial device within months and certainly less than a year.
Israeli Prime Minister talking about the motivation of why he launched this attack, these strikes right now. Let's bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired General Jack Keane. General, great to see you.
Yeah, great to be here.
What did you take away from that? Is there a sense that it's not only the striking of the nuclear facilities, but also maybe leading to regime change here, or at least a hope for that?
Yeah, well, certainly that's not the objective that they assigned themselves. I mean, clearly the objective, the principal objectives are one, to take down the nuclear enterprise and also the ballistic missile enterprise. But certainly Prime Minister Netanyahu would take the byproduct of that, and that is regime change. Right now, inside of Iran, there is serious criticism of the regime by people who are insiders. Two areas. One, the fact that Israel gained air superiority within the first 12 hours and can roam all over the country at will is quite stunning. And that's the way the United States goes about establishing an operation. First, make certain that we can get air superiority.
And I should point out, in October, they had a strike where they took out a lot of air defenses inside Iran. This has now exponentially expanded that. And the question is, why are these missiles launching and rockets launching still in great numbers into Israel?
Well, what they cleaned up, they took out the S-400s and S-300s, which are advanced air defense systems given by Russia to Iran. They did that in October. But Iran has their own capabilities, and they had them on fast forward because they knew something was going to happen. And they have 4 different kinds of SAMs, surface air missile systems. The Israelis took out all of them. When it comes to the ballistic missiles, we estimate that they have somewhere around 2,000 of these missiles. In October, they fired 200, and 40 of them penetrated. That's a high percentage that penetrated. The targets were in the desert Air Force bases and a Mossad headquarters. 1 person killed, not a lot of damage. But the Israelis took that to heart. They know if Iran came at them, Brett, with a fuselage of several hundred missiles at the same time,
at once, yeah,
targeted on population centers, that would overwhelm the Arrow system and the U.S. THAAD system that's there, to include the Aegis defense system that the United States has at sea. The Iron Dome is irrelevant here. That's rockets and short-range missiles. David Sling, irrelevant. That's middle range. So that was a huge concern of theirs, and that is why they are targeting them so much. We think they've shot 300. They didn't shoot 500, 600, so they're not able to do. Khamenei told his people he wanted 1,000 missiles in the air at one time. That was a direction he provided a couple of weeks ago. That has not happened. At best, it's 100.
So I've tried to press him, and obviously, for strategic reasons, he didn't give me answers on whether he asked President Trump about that bunker buster, the massive 30,000-pound ordnance, the MOP, that only can be delivered by the B-2 bomber. He didn't go down that road, but clearly, to take out those nuclear facilities deep embedded, they would need that, correct?
So for our audience to understand, the nuclear enterprise that Iran has developed, through 45 years here, is really quite extensive. It goes beyond 12 sites, and they have spread out the enrichment, and they have spread out the centrifuges, and they've spread out the storage of enriched uranium. So no one site can you take down. The majority of the nuclear enterprise is still out there in play. We've only been in this for 3 days now. This is the beginning of a campaign to systematically take them down. Fordo and other sites like that are deeply buried. I mean, Fordo's a half a mile down, right, 2 to 3 feet wall. So this is a formidable thing. I do believe it's in the United States' core national interest to help Israel finish off Iran here in terms of its nuclear enterprise.
And for the people who say we're going to get drawn into this thing and we're going to be there forever and this is going to be a conflict with...
Iran has a weak military. Hardly any Navy to speak of. The Army's poorly trained, poorly equipped, although it's got big numbers, and poorly led. The Air Force is 1970s vintage. They haven't flown an airstrike against Israel yet in terms of taking on their fighters. So the idea that Iran is going to go to war with the United States and Israel, they lose their regime over that. They don't want any part of that.
Well, it's always great to have your analysis, General. Thank you.
Yeah, great talking to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.